North Carolina is one of 5 possible locations, and that process is underway with Homeland Security about assessing these various sites and issuing environmental impact statements about each of the sites. Wherever it is, it simply has to be safe and secure. The question of hoof and mouth disease, which is a highly contagious animal disease, and it can go like wildfire through herds of cattle and swine, and so it's a plague worth worrying about. And as you say, there was an outbreak in Britain a few years ago. The General Government Accountability Office, the GAO, has issued a study, as you said, which indicates that the Department of Homeland Security has not given an adequate rationale in terms of the safety of this facility with respect to hoof and mouth disease. And my report, which isn't public knowledge until Wednesday, but the report of our subcommittee is going to address that very thing, and it's going to say that no money is available for even preliminary work on this facility until this matter is cleared up.
It actually was the budget for the Homeland Security Committee that he chairs. So that's what he was talking about. And it did come out, but what's been published that we've been able to find about it so far, it doesn't say anything about NBAF. Doesn't mention it at all. So I don't know what sort of appropriations that committee made for the NBAF.
Well, let me ask this. It seems like from where I'm sitting, over $1 billion have been spent on labs that we know of. No one can tell me how many labs we have, the quantity of stuff we're looking at, or quality of stuff we're looking at that could be a threat to this country. It seems like if we put the money out there, the germs will come, so we'll build these labs. I mean, what has really changed since the fall, other than anthrax, okay, other than that, what has really changed that would require this proliferation of labs, that agencies doubling and tripling the labs they have within the threat? What has changed?
So we have 15 labs in the continental U.S.?
Yes, either operating or to be opened at this time. 7 years ago, there were 3 BSL Level 4 labs. So in the name of terrorism, there has been a huge proliferation of these laboratories.
And why do they need another one?
Again, apparently to protect us from foreign terrorists bringing animal diseases into this country. However, a October of 2007 GAO report indicated that they felt should they move this lab to the continental United States, it would more likely, the lab would be more likely to cause a problem with diseases getting out or a disgruntled employee taking something out of the lab than having something brought in by terrorists from another country.
I'm not certain that the research does need to be done, but if we accept the premise that it does need to be done, the most sensible place is on Plum Island, which is off the coast of New York, is already owned by the government, already has much of the infrastructure that's needed to operate, already has the existing base of researchers, and represents the lowest cost to the taxpayer.
We're hoping that it will just remain on Plum Island. That is where they presently do the research. It's off the tip of Long Island, off the coast of New York. The prevailing winds blow out into the North Atlantic, and there is virtually no livestock industry whatsoever up in that area. So, while it's not perfect, they have had at least 4 releases of foot and mouth disease out of the laboratory that we know of, but luckily, because the prevailing winds, it has not caused a problem to date. If you do that down here in North Carolina, we have the 2nd largest hog industry in the United States, and it's estimated that foot and mouth disease could devastate the North Carolina hog population in 36 hours.
With respect to the North Carolina site, there are some ways that this would be a positive impact, I think, in terms of the it's complementary with respect to other aspects of our scientific community here. You talk about the agriculture community as perhaps having the most to lose if something bad happened. As far as I know, the agriculture community in this state is solidly behind this facility. At least the organizations that speak, the Farm Bureau, the various the various organizations that deal with various kinds of farming.
The economic data that the North Carolina Department of Commerce has released is extremely faulty. The Walden model, which is the model they use to lure businesses to North Carolina, we've been way overpaying to get businesses here. And this is held true with, they use the Walden model to come up with the supposed economic benefits for North Carolina. And the numbers don't add up.
Mainly, we feel that the consortium, the state consortium that's pushing for this thing has minimized the risks. Homeland Security has minimized the risk, though in their environmental impact statement, the draft, they admit that were there a release of any of these pathogens, the results would be catastrophic for North Carolina. So we feel like they've minimized that, and they've exaggerated the economic benefit to North Carolina. They've exaggerated the number of jobs. The consortium has said up to 650 jobs. The draft environmental impact statement very clearly says that most of those jobs would be coming from Plum Island. The scientists, the researchers,
they're just transplanting.
Just transplanting, exactly. There might be, I think they use the figure of 63 local jobs available, produced.
And they're probably, maintenance or housekeepers or low-level, low-pay type jobs.
One of the big issues here is that this is a project of Homeland Security, which unfortunately hasn't exactly been a model for citizen involvement or transparency. And if we're talking about taxpayer-funded research that the taxpayers can't actually learn about or provide meaningful oversight for, I got a real problem with that.
They're exempt from the Freedom of Information Act.
As long as it has to do with national security, then Homeland Security is exempt. So there's no transparency. There's not going to be citizen oversight of this. We're not going to know what they do there. We don't even know what diseases they're going to bring. They admit to 8, 2 of which are zoonotic, which means they can transfer to people. But they say clearly in the draft that they can change their mission at any time.
I am just really disappointed and frustrated. We have met with, obviously a huge number of politicians, about this issue. Unfortunately, the consortium, which is the group that wants to bring this facility here to North Carolina, knew about this long before we did, and they were out promoting this to all the politicians. And again, about the fabulous economic data, about what a boon to North Carolina this will be. All the politicians jumped on board, without doing any homework and any research. And so when we go to meet with them and we show them, how the numbers don't add up, the safety issues, the lack of security, the accidents that have occurred, cover-ups of the accidents, they kind of don't want to hear it. And they have a real difficult time saying, well, gosh, I think I made a mistake. Be it, maybe ego, but these guys do not like, admitting that they haven't done a proper job. Winky Wilkins, who proposed $25 million of the first $100 million of North Carolina taxpayer money, jumped on board without doing any research on this. His brother asked him to do this. His brother works for NC Biotech. When I said, when we told him the facts and everything and asked him to withdraw the bill, he goes, well, I can't really do that. And we had considered Winky a principled man up until this point, but I am extremely disappointed with him.